This Boostcast is all about how to find and use your voice with impact. And I'm delighted that my special guest is someone who does that professionally, because TV producer Riffi Khan is famous for programmes like I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here and Hell's Kitchen, which became global hits. She then left ITV and became an independent consultant, and they called her back in and said, help us with programmes like Bear Grylls' The Island and Celebrity MasterChef. So why is Rifi someone to share this story with? Because she brings an understanding of how to create a story and to use your voice constructively. The first tip she'll give us is brilliantly simple, is once you're passionate about something, find someone safe to share it with first before you share it with everybody else. This is Riffi Khan.
People choose the wrong words from the wrong order and deliver them using the wrong tone. And that leads to all sorts of problems. Too much reaction, not enough response. In the heat of the moment, things are said that can't be said. I suppose ultimately what I believe is that words are the most powerful tools in the world, and a few choice words can destroy people, and a few choice words can build people. And the language and the choice of words and the tone is everything. Whether, personal, professional, workplace, and that you can have the most difficult, most painful conversations in the world, as long as you do them from the right place, the right intention, using the right words. And that's why language and communication matters to me, because people hurt each other all the time. People get things wrong, and then why did it not come out right? Why did it not achieve the result I wanted? And venting is not the same as communication, or you speak your truth, speak up for yourself, you can say what you want. Well, actually, no, you can't. You need to frame it. What's your intention? What's the end result? And how would you be if they were talking to you? Because that's the way you need to deliver that, I suppose.
Yeah, I get that. And when I first saw you, it was at an Arise conference, that wonderful event that Aduke organizes every year. Yeah. When we get about 150 business leaders who are female, and we have inspiring leaders like yourself speaking about this sort of subject, about finding your voice and using it. And I so remember I debriefed you afterwards. I had to come up to you. It was the first time I'd seen you speak. And I said, I just loved the way you spoke from the heart to the heart. And you very kindly were as transparent as you always are and said, it's not what I do. My career, my background, my ideal is being behind the camera, not in front of it. So in that sense, what made you say, do you know what, I am going to be brave and I'm going to come on a Boostcast and I'm going to talk about a subject I'm passionate about? What was the trigger that made you say yes?
So I'd already turned down a podcast about 2 months ago that I was asked. And my default setting is no, I don't want to do it. And I think it's because there's a battle with the ego internally. Am I so special that I can't turn up and speak up and share what I've learned in my life? Because that is ego. That means that I'm so special, I'm so unique, I'm so terrified that I can't show up at all. And that battles against the other side, which is that, hey, you've had a life, you don't know it all, but maybe there's something, and it's not for you to decide what other people might take from that. So that's the internal battle I have all the time. And when I first read it, I kind of ignored it for a few days. I thought, oh no, I'm comfortable, I don't want to do this, and I'm comfortable. But then you put a nice message on LinkedIn about something that, how great leaders speak from the heart, and you put my name in it. I was like, oh, he's coming from such a good place, he's got such good intentions, he's doing such good work, he's sharing his wisdom, I respect him. At least I can do is show up, do my 50% worth, and dare to show up and say, okay, I don't know anything, but hey, if there's something that I can share and that might be valuable, great. I have to get over that fear.
Good for you, because it is brave, and thank you for doing that. And if I was to use 4 words to describe you, and you can tell me that works or doesn't for you, I would say heart-led, storyteller. And the reason I say that is because you help people tell their stories. It's what you do professionally as a TV producer, as a media expert. But you also have a story to tell yourself, and that in telling that story, you inspire others. So what I'd love to learn, and I do mean learn, is how do you create a story? How do you find your voice? How do you help people do that? What are the tips you would share with us about finding your voice and then sharing it?
Everybody has a story to tell, and every single person's story is valuable. Whether you're a farmer in the middle of the countryside somewhere, everybody has a story. It's important. And the way that as human beings that we connect is by sharing stories. Go all the way back to Navajo Indians. You know, it's storytelling, and in its purest form, storytelling is that two people sit together. There's no TV camera, there's no audience. Two people sit together, and one asks the question, the other one listens, and they share and they listen, and every now and then they'll ask questions. Oh, so what happened? Okay, that's interesting. Where did it happen? How did you feel? And that's storytelling in its purest form. We don't try to manipulate it. We don't try to add an angle or anything. I suppose for me, my intention is to recapture that authentic storytelling, to create a safe space for the other person, whoever I'm interviewing, to be able to open their heart. And for me, when someone opens their heart, they're opening their heart, and it's a privilege to have their heart in my hands. And when you set that arena, it's really important to be authentic, to make it safe, and to allow them to tell their story the way they want to, wherever it goes. And often I find things that I didn't know before, even though I've done my research. So I always encourage people, connect with someone who makes you feel safe and tell your story. Tell whatever pearl of wisdom you've learned, whatever trials and tribulations. Whenever you meet someone, and whether it's your dustman or your postman or whatever, you always come away having learned something that happened to them, and you learned and you walked away. I was in the shop yesterday with my sister, and she was paying for something, and the lady in the cashier, they were talking about making tuna sweet corn for sandwiches for her children, and the lady just shared that, oh, I make it and I put red onions in there. And it's like she was telling her story about how she makes her tuna sweet corn sandwich to my sister, and they left. And that quick exchange, her story touched my sister. She's going to go home now, put onions in her the way she makes the sandwiches. So we have an effect on everyone around us. I just think it's magical. So yeah, we're connected, and the way we connect is by telling stories, sharing bits of ourselves.
What's really interesting and important is the first thing you shared there is find someone you feel safe telling your story to. I think that's really eye-opening, actually, because so many people, and I'm a consultant like you are, and I advise people, get yourself out there on social media and share your story, as you say. It's so easy to say, and many people don't have that willingness to project big stories. I want to keep it to myself, or I feel awkward, or I feel like an imposter. So find someone you feel safe with and share your story is a great first tip. What else would you say? Because our society right now needs more authentic people speaking up more. What other tips would you give us?
My number one tip would be ready to be uncomfortable. Really, really get good at being uncomfortable, because it's only from being uncomfortable that we grow. So doing this today is uncomfortable for me. But I also know this is actually a huge benefit for me to put my head above the parapet, show up, expose a bit of myself and my thoughts, and whatever comes, what may. And yes, of course, I'll be judged. We're judging human beings. So get ready to be uncomfortable when you share whatever it is that you share, which it can be a recipe to make some food, or some profound moment you went through a divorce, or you lost your job, and the lessons you learned from that. It can be big or small, but being uncomfortable is okay. It's okay. Your body's going to feel like, oh, I don't want to do this. Your solar plexus is going to be agitated. You're going to feel these emotions, but in spite of that, embrace being uncomfortable.
And so one of the charities, and there are many that you support, is around helping the young, helping people who probably need more guidance than those of us who've got a few years behind us. So what would you say to people who have never had encouraging advice around that and saying, just go for it? Because that's kind of what you're saying, isn't it? Be brave. How do you enable younger people who've never had that kind of nurturing environment to really step out of their comfort zone?
That's a really good question. It's so easy now for young people to isolate and only communicate with a very safe group via text. And the old age value of a face-to-face conversation is scary because you get instant reaction, you get instant feedback. If you say something and someone doesn't like it, it's like they're on their face, their tone of voice, and I find with lots of young people that I work with, they're terrified of upsetting someone, and then they're also terrified that I'm so unique, I'm so different that no one's ever going to understand me. My problems are so unique, I'm so different, and they put themselves into a tiny little black hole and they can never get out of it. And my advice is that you're not sharing or speaking up or confiding in someone for the benefit that they can solve your problem, they can change your life, or anything like that. You're speaking up and sharing it because A, you need to offload it. B, you have a voice, you have a right to speak. We wouldn't have been given a voice, the ability to speak, if it wasn't to share and to offload and to and have converse with other people. So don't shut down in thinking that, oh my gosh, they can't solve it, I won't get it fixed. It's not about the fixing, it's the exercising of the voice. It's by using this in the way it's been designed, because you do. And that's normally 50% of the solution in itself, is just by articulating, by just getting it out of your body. Otherwise, these emotions and things inside young people just stay there. And what I've noticed is that they feel like there's no one in the world who understand me, and it festers, and it's a self-perpetuating circle. But the moment you start offloading, you realize it's a very cathartic activity. And no one's going to save you or solve your problem. But you're not doing it, you're doing it for yourself, because you'll feel a little bit lighter, because it is a problem shared. So find your friends who are really good at listening and hang out with
birds, which is beautiful. I'm glad you're in the garden. It's real. So help me understand how you get over that big first step, because it is a big first step, that boldness that you talk about, that offloading. Sounds logical, and yet emotionally we're scared. We're scared of being that vocal, that transparent, that authentic. So what would your advice be about getting over that very first hurdle that says start this?
Look at your group of friends. You might have 5, you might have 4, whoever it is, and write down all your friends and pick out the ones that you think the most safest, nicest one, and start with that one person. And tell them what that story, what that issue is, that story, that pain, whatever that is that you're experiencing, that thing that's inside you and you don't know how to solve. And then move on to the next one on the list. And then move on to the next one on the list. And by the time you've retold the same story and the same pain or the same issue with 15 people, then come back to me and tell me how you feel.
Yeah, I think this is very practical. And that's why it's useful, because, as I said, if we just apply logic to this, intelligent people would be doing it already. And it's much more complex than that.
Oh yeah, because I always say this to my friends, this is very personal, but I've probably cried in every cafe and restaurant there is in London, because I'd meet a friend, offload wherever the pain, then another one, until it doesn't hurt anymore. And that's just one way. Articulating and communicating with another human being is just one way. You can write in journals. But the most powerful way is, oh my God, I'm a human being. Another human being listened to me. That other person held a space for me. They didn't solve my problem, but they held a space and heard me out.
Wonderful stuff. Tell me more about the work you do with female business leaders, because you're part of a group. You inspire other business leaders who are female. Tell me more about what you do and why you do it in that field.
I think leading on from what we're talking about, speaking up and your voice, for me, it's not about speak up and be an activist and be shouty about it and be seen that way. For me, it's about change makers. Are you a female change maker? Are you a light worker? Are you someone that in whatever business it is, either a lawyer or a doctor or whatever it is that you're doing, are you interested in making the world a better place? Are there things that you see in the world that you find are unacceptable to you, that cross your boundaries? And I think there's two things you can do. You can either sit there and you can talk to your friends, one layer, you can go on social media and complain about it or, discuss it, whatever. But for me, it's more proactive than that. I want to help and I support women to go to the next step is like, okay, step up. If that upsets you, that crosses the boundary, do something about it on the highest level possible, which means change policy, change the law, get actively involved in it, make your presence known. Show up, get a seat at the table.
I like this point at the highest level, because I think you were approached by the government, weren't you, to help on a number of different policy areas? They acted.
I was asked to, obviously in government, I'm not political, but in government, there's a very lack of female MPs and female voices, and it's not an area that's attractive. Women don't want to go to politics. It's not. It all seems male dominated, or you might get labelled as an activist or opinionated, or all these different labels that women have. And for me, I feel that the issues that the women I know and work with and love are, if it's domestic violence, it's child abuse, it's, children with, learning difficulties, all these different things. My job is to say, come on, if that bothers you and you're passionate about it, go directly to the core and make the change there. Show up. And my job is to give you confidence, to show up, to speak up, and to start working on your passion, the thing that really bothers you, the thing that you really want to see change in society.
How do you help us then, Rifi, get the right words? Because a challenge that I myself find when I'm really, really passionate is to stay calm and methodical and influential, even though the emotion inside is going, I just want to fight this bad thing and make it better. So I need to find the right words, but because of the emotion so high, I find the wrong words, or my energy is a push energy, not a collaborative energy. So how can you help people who are like that their passion's there, but then the voice doesn't match that passion?
Sorry, it's a very good question. And this is it. When something happens and triggers us, i.e. it's crossed our boundary, we're upset, the immediate thing is that we react. And that reaction is a physical one, as in our body will warm up, heat up, we feel our chest tightening, the anger might be coming up to the surface. So your body's reacting physically. And that's great, because it gives you a sign that something has crossed your boundary and you're not happy about it. But as they say, when the emotions are high, intelligence is very low. And that's where we're in the danger of reacting. So what I tend to do and tell people to do is, okay, completely step away from that situation. Do not react. If you want, you need to respond. And response is coming from responding from a place of wisdom. So what I tend to do is something happens, as I'm a normal human being, it affects me. I take time out. I'll go straight into nature. Like I'm sitting here, my bare feet on the grass. I'll ground myself. I will reconnect. And it might take 2 hours. It might take 2 days. It might take 2 months. But I will not react or respond until I'm coming from a place of wisdom, which means I'm calmed down. I'm getting on with my life. I'm doing something happy. My equilibrium is reset. I've forgotten about the issue. Now I can think about it. And now that I'm not charged, there's no charge around me. I'm not in the moment, not in the heat of the moment. I can respond. How do I really feel about that incident that happened? What do I really want to say to that person? And what is my intention? What is the end result I'd like to see? That is responding from a place of wisdom and not reacting. So the practice is, can you keep this closed long enough to let that emotion calm down? And the normal things I say, no, I normally tend to, I'll come back to that. Or I remember one thing happened to me. This incident happened. It took me 3 months to come back. So I wanted to see what's my true response, not my reaction. I don't know if that answers your question, but that's why.
It does. It totally does. It's take time out, actually.
Yes.
And just let everything calm down and then be ready to go, but show up and be bold. It's coming back to the things you've advised already. And how do I choose exactly the right words? So I've got myself nice and calm. I'm in the right state to share passion without offending people or without venting, I think you said earlier. How do I now choose the words that really resonate with other people, your storytelling ability? How do I find the right word when I need it most?
I think that's probably the easiest practice for anyone. Imagine that you're talking to yourself. Imagine you're about to tell yourself off, or you're angry with yourself. How would you like that person to speak to you? Because let's face it, none of us are, mistake free or innocent in that respect. So put yourself in their shoes. How could you deliver that in the most beautifully packaged words with a bow on top? That's what I tend to do. How can I have that conversation? What's my intention? And if it was me in the hot seat, and how would I like that person to approach it? And there's things like, it might well be, look, this is really, be honest, be really truthful. This is really hard for me to do. I've had to think really hard about how I have this conversation with you. And I don't want to, my intention is to clear the air in the best way possible, because you're an amazing person. And this is how I feel. And just have that conversation as if it was you, as if it was a child.
It sounds so simple what you've said, but I like that simplicity. It's have a conversation, and this is replaying some of the conversation we've just had. One is have a good conversation with yourself. Another one is have a conversation actively with someone you feel safe with. Create clarity of your own message, and then in the right way, share it at the right level with people who can make a difference to the thing that you're passionate about.
Another exercise that's quite useful is that if you're not sure about how your words are going to come out, write it down. And then, because another way is you're offloaded by write it down in a notebook. I want to say this, I'm angry about this, I'm upset about this crossed the line, even your colleagues, whatever it is, horizontal, vertically in the business. And I think this is one of the biggest problems in companies. People don't say the truth, pretending that everything's okay when it's not okay, and things fester, and then they come out in resentment. It's much better to nip things in the bud. Something's happened, someone's crossed the line, you're unhappy, it's not great, take them aside, have a conversation. If you continually keep doing that, you're clearing the decks all the while, and that resentment's never going to come up, because you're literally solving each and clearing each thing as it comes up. So I think it's a really good practice, because things are bad. We're human beings. You put this together in the business, something's going to happen.
So I'm going to ask a really big question now, Rifi, as we come towards the close, and it's around, as a filmmaker, a film producer by background. So you were not just doing that with some of the biggest shows in television, but you were also casting, finding the right people, drawing this authenticity out of guests on the shows and all those sorts of things. If you had to make a film about now, about 2020, about the pandemic, its implications, and about how society's reacted, what would you focus on? What would be your main focus in a film about the extraordinary events of the last few months?
It'd be really simple. I would focus on the light. In the world around us, and it's what's happening inside ourselves and what's happening in the world, there's always a daily fight between in the dark, staying in the dark, or in the light. And I call it Star Wars, the light and the dark forces. It's within us. Something's going to happen to me on a personal level. Am I going to stay in the light and rise above it, stand tall, and be a better person and deal with it from a place of love and wisdom? Or am I going to go to the hate, anger, reaction, and all that negative energy? And every time my mouth releases a negative word, I'm in that negative energy. And every time my mouth goes into a positive word, I'm going to be light energy. So if I was making a movie today in 2020, I'd be focusing on all the amazing good stuff that's happening around the world right now, in spite of the darkness. Because the more darkness, the more fear there is in the world. I would be making films about hope. I would be making films about, wow, all the initiatives, like a friend of mine who was providing, health kits to NHS workers, which was zinc and vitamin C and supplements, people that have taken initiative to do good in a crisis. So for me, it depends what you want to do. In any in any day, in any area of your life, you can either focus on the good or the bad, and whatever you focus on expands. So my energy and my focus will always go in that. Doesn't mean the stuff's not happening. It means I know I can create more, be more productive, contribute more to society, and be happier myself if I stay in the light.